The grand reception hall of the Schwarzengabe Palace shimmered beneath the glow of 100 crystal chandeliers, their light scattered across polished marble floors and gilded columns, casting reflections that trembled like restless spirits upon the walls. Vienna's most distinguished families filled the chamber, their silk gowns whispering as they shifted, their medals and jewels glinting beneath the brilliance overhead. Conversations had faded into a reverent hush. At the improvised altar draped in ivory satin, she stood motionless. Lady Isabella von Linden, only 24 years of age, wore a gown of pale silk adorned with delicate Brussels lace. The veil that framed her face softened the firmness of her jaw, but it could not conceal the resolve in her eyes. Her father was gone, taken suddenly, under circumstances wrapped in whispers, and with his passing she had inherited more than a title. She had inherited lands burdened by debt, a name shadowed by rumor, and a future already negotiated by men long dead. Measured footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Duke Alexander von Rydberg approached without haste. Tall, impeccably composed, his expression carved from restraint, he looked every inch the heir to one of the empire's oldest fortunes. His gray eyes, cool as winter steel, rested upon her as though she were a matter of business, not a bride. When he stood close enough that only she could hear him, his lips barely moved. "When this ceremony ends," he murmured, his voice low and unyielding, "remove the wedding gown. This marriage is nothing but retribution." The words struck like ice water poured over flame. Isabella's fingers trembled beneath her gloves, yet she lifted her chin, refusing to give the watching world even a flicker of weakness. Around them, the priest cleared his throat. The guests sensed a fracture in the air, though they did not understand its cause. Something had broken before the union had even begun. 2 weeks earlier, within these same walls, their destinies had collided in a very different silence. Isabella had arrived in Vienna with a single trunk and a heart still tender from grief. Count Rudolf von Linden's death had come swiftly, leaving behind questions no one dared to ask aloud. His estate was vast, yet crumbling beneath unpaid obligations. Chief among the creditors stood the House of Rydberg. She had been summoned to the Duke's private study. The room smelled of leather-bound books and cold ink. Alexander had not risen when she entered. He regarded her over steepled fingers, assessing, calculating. "Lady Isabella," he said evenly, "your father's debts are substantial. 4 years of unpaid rents and contracts signed under questionable circumstances. The lands of Linden now fall under my authority until restitution is made." "I will repay what is owed," she replied, her voice steady, though her pulse pounded in her ears. "With what?" he asked. "Your treasury is empty. Your lands yield little. There remains one alternative." She understood before he spoke it, yet still the words felt unreal. "Marriage." She stared at him, disbelief flaring into indignation. "You would bind yourself to the daughter of a debtor?" He leaned back slightly. "Your father was not merely a debtor." From his desk he slid forward an aged document. Ink had faded, but the signatures remained. 20 years ago, your father acted as intermediary in financial arrangements that cost me my maternal inheritance. He signed papers that ensured my mother's estate would be stripped from me. The room seemed to tilt. "My father would never—" "He did," Alexander interrupted. "Whether by coercion or greed is irrelevant. The outcome remains." That night, in a modest lodging near the Ringstrasse, Isabella searched through her father's remaining papers. Hidden among correspondence, she discovered a letter addressed to Alexander, never sent. The handwriting trembled across the page. "Forgive me. I was compelled. I signed what I was told to sign. I did not foresee that your mother's legacy would be destroyed. If ever my daughter bears the cost of my failure, I beg you for mercy."
By morning, her decision was made. She returned to the palace and found Alexander standing before frost-laced windows overlooking the winter gardens. "I accept," she said without preamble. He turned, genuine surprise flickering across his features. "You understand what this means?" "Yes," she answered quietly. "It means my father wronged you. It means you seek justice. But I will not pretend affection. When the debt is settled, I will leave." His expression hardened once more. "And I will not feign tenderness." Thus the engagement was announced. Vienna buzzed with speculation. Why would a powerful duke wed the daughter of scandal? Why would she consent to such a union? Among those most unsettled was Baroness Clara von Esterwald. At 38, elegant and calculating, she had once held the late Duke, Alexander's father, in secret affection. She had imagined herself ascending through influence and manipulation. Isabella's sudden arrival shattered those ambitions. "This cannot stand," she whispered to Baron Otto Grimm, a man whose loyalty could be purchased. "If the girl remains, everything I have cultivated will crumble." The wedding proceeded under crystal light and muted tension. The vows were recited with mechanical precision. When the priest declared them husband and wife, Alexander leaned forward to fulfill the final rite. The kiss was brief, yet in that fleeting contact something unexpected ignited, an ember neither had intended to kindle. That night he did not enter the bridal chamber. Instead, he left a note beneath the door. "Sleep peacefully. This is a legal union, not a personal one." Isabella read it thrice, uncertain whether she felt relief or disappointment. Days passed in measured distance. They dined together in silence. They attended engagements side by side, yet subtle gestures betrayed a thawing frost. Each morning he inquired discreetly whether she had rested well. She placed fresh flowers upon his desk without explanation. When rain fell, he sent a cashmere shawl to her chambers. When he worked late, she left tea at his elbow. In the winter garden one afternoon, she found him standing before a withered rose bush. "My mother planted this," he said quietly. "After her death, no one tended it as she did." She knelt beside the barren stems. "Perhaps it is not dead. Perhaps it simply waits." For what? For patience. He studied her then, truly seeing her for the first time, not as a symbol of betrayal, but as a woman carrying burdens of her own. The Baroness soon struck. At a dinner hosted by the Marquis von Hallstein, she insinuated that Alexander's mother had left a moral clause requiring him to marry a woman of untarnished lineage. "A von Linden hardly qualifies," she suggested with feigned sorrow. Whispers spread like wildfire. Later that night, Isabella confronted her husband. "If such a clause exists, why not free yourself?" His silence revealed more than words. "I do not wish to," he admitted at last. Her breath caught. Yet doubt lingered, until illness swept through her. A bitter chill turned to fever. Physicians were summoned. Pneumonia, they warned. For 3 nights, Alexander did not leave her side. He cooled her brow, steadied her trembling hands. In delirium, she whispered, "I do not want to be your punishment." "You are not," he murmured fiercely. "You never were." When she awakened to find him asleep beside her bed, vulnerability etched into his features, something shifted irrevocably within her heart. The Baroness escalated her schemes. A forged letter appeared, claiming Isabella intended to abandon her husband once her estates were restored. Alexander recognized the deception, but doubt wounded him nonetheless. At dinner, he presented the letter. She read it, horrified, This is false. I would never write so coldly. Then why does it resemble your hand? Because someone wishes us divided. Her voice broke. I am beginning to believe this marriage could become more than revenge. Silence filled the space between them. He reached for her hand. Forgive me. Trust, fragile yet luminous, began to grow. They spoke openly thereafter of childhood sorrows, of parental failures, of loneliness and pride. From honesty blossomed affection, from affection, devotion. Jealousy revealed his heart fully at an imperial ball when a young count sought Isabella's attention. Alexander's composure fractured. "You are my wife," he said afterward, voice tight. "Only on paper?" she challenged softly. "Not anymore." Before confession could complete itself, the Baroness introduced a new threat, legal challenges that endangered Alexander's title. Faced with potential ruin, he knelt before Isabella. "I will not annul our marriage." "You could lose everything," she whispered. "I have lost before," he replied. "I will not lose you." "I love you," he said at last. Tears fell freely then, not from sorrow, but from surrender to a love neither had anticipated. Together they uncovered proof of the Baroness's past manipulations. A retired secretary confessed to falsified documents orchestrated at her command. Evidence was presented discreetly. The Baroness, cornered, agreed to public confession and withdrew from society in disgrace. Peace might have followed, yet a darker truth surfaced. Among her father's hidden papers, Isabella discovered proof of treason. Her father had sold imperial secrets to foreign agents to cover gambling debts. The weight crushed her spirit. "I will not hide this," she told Alexander. "You would risk your name? I will not build our future upon deception." They presented the document directly to the emperor. Her honesty astonished him. In recognition of her integrity and charitable works, he granted clemency. Shadows lifted. When fever ravaged the poorer districts of Vienna, Isabella opened palace halls as infirmaries. She and Alexander worked side by side among the afflicted. An orphaned child named Anna survived because Isabella refused to leave her bedside. The emperor honored their compassion publicly. Months later, beneath winter skies, Isabella discovered she carried new life. Alexander's joy overflowed unrestrained. "Our child will know love, not bitterness," he vowed. A daughter was born, Helena, named for his mother. A rosebush was planted the day she entered the world. It bloomed even in frost. Years passed. Laughter filled halls once echoing with suspicion. A son followed, Thomas, bright-eyed and fearless. One afternoon, Isabella found an unsent letter dated their wedding day. "Today I wed you in anger, yet already I fear my heart betrays me. Perhaps you are what I need, though I lack the courage to admit it." She sought him in the garden, where he knelt beside their daughter, teaching her how to tend roses. "You were never weak, only afraid," she told him softly. "I began by despising your name. Now it is the name I cherish." Under starlit skies, wrapped in quiet warmth, they reflected upon the path behind them. Love had not come easily. It had not arrived adorned in perfection. It had emerged from ashes of resentment, tested by deception, purified by truth. True love, they understood, is not the absence of pain. It is the choice to remain when leaving would be simpler. It is forgiveness stronger than vengeance, faith deeper than fear. And in that understanding, they found a peace more enduring than titles, wealth, or power. They had discovered a love that stayed, and that was enough.